Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Agency Operators Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Ari Zecker of Deep Sea Commerce. How you doing, Ari?
Wonderful. Happy to be here. Thanks, Pasha.
Awesome, Ari. I'm really happy to have this convo. As we were speaking just a minute ago, it's not often you have two agency owners sitting in a room that focus on the same niche. We're both Amazon agencies, so we've kind of experienced the same hurdles, experienced probably the same setbacks, successes. We're very similar, but we'll also have our differences. So that's what I'm excited to talk to you about today. Before we dive into the any kind of particular topic in the Amazon space, always I'm curious to hear how people became who they are, and kind of the path that led you to become first of all an agency owner, second of all, a Amazon agency owner. So please, if you can go as far back as you like.
Yeah, for sure, Pasha. I mean, like, answering the question of who I am is a big one, right?
Yeah.
But specifically in the context of business and Amazon, happy to. So, as we talked about briefly, I'm like this American Israeli kind of back and forth person. So I grew up primarily in Israel and moved back a couple of times. In about 2016, I moved to Seattle with my wife, where my wife took a job at Amazon.com. I was studying finance. And basically, she was in charge of kind of taking Amazon FBA sellers in the early days and convincing them to sell in other marketplaces. And specifically, it was Amazon China. And so basically, she got the list from Amazon, the Z to A sellers, right? Who's the biggest seller? Go after the big fish first, and then go down to the small fish. And there's a lot of sellers, a lot of fish. And I was studying finance, not really loving school. My background was in the military, special forces, and I was like very antsy, not great at sitting on my ass. Um, you know, and she was like, this is a crazy opportunity. It's a marketplace. People are selling things and they're doing like 60, 20, $100 million. You're interested in business. Why don't you take a look? And I just finished my last exam, and I kind of went head over heels into the Amazon YouTube world. This was the early days, 2016, 17. And it was, Jungle Scout $1 million case study and the
Right.
early days of Brandon Young and just like a whole kind of wide, like a, almost like cultish, like Facebook groups where like people would ask questions and then there would be thousands of comments, and it was like, do things fast so you can get rich, kind of a thing.
Yep.
Um, and I was very curious, very patient, and I was like, I can invest, a couple $1,000s into a private label brand, and I kind of went head over heels into this world and launched my first private label. It was a terrible private label, not a passion project whatsoever. My go-to advice for people is like, do something that you want to tell your entire network about. Like, be proud of your product, use your product, be your product, because people can smell, just smell if you're not really in it and behind it. Um, and I launched another brand. I was doing wholesale. I got to the 7-figure mark in terms of wholesale. I had a relatively smallish team, all VA based, and I was very pedantic about thinking about how does this scale and how can I think about the long term vision. And long story short, I kind of was doing that while studying and having kids and juggling like a million things up in the air. And around COVID time, if you guys all remember the deprioritization phase, where your product went from having a 2-day prime shipping to a 3-month prime day shipping because it
Mhm.
was not toilet paper, right, in the US market. And my conversion rate just went down the toilet. And I was approached by an individual who was leading an e-commerce arm of a private equity firm. And they called me up and they said, we don't know about Amazon. You do Amazon, right? Quote unquote, you do Amazon. And we want to sell PPE. We want to sell face masks,
Mhm.
wipes, and COVID tests. And I was like, guys, like, it's March of 2020. The wave is literally, it's already curled, right? It's already like the massive, explosion of water. You can't get on this wave. And they were like, we have millions and millions and millions of dollars at our disposal. Do it. And it was my first kind of doorway into the like consulting world of not selling my own things. And I kind of took the leap, and it was an absolutely wild ride. We were competing with Lysol and Clorox, and we launched a baby wipes brand. antibacterial wipes brand. It was a very exciting time, and we basically had no budget, which meant that we did we were being as aggressive as humanly possible. And I learned virtually what to do and what not to do from those experiences. I was exposed to, like, Amazon retail orders of, $70 million for a single order, and, Fauci tweeting something about face masks, and, inventory went through, like, just everything that could go wrong in a marketplace and go well, I learned. And that kind of gave me this, like, moonshot into systems and people and marketplace, and also thinking about, and this is, I think, a very important piece about, like, my journey is thinking about Amazon not as this, like, quote unquote cultish mom and pop, side gig, but rather it's a business. There needs to be a good P&L. There's white collars who are funding things, quote unquote. And I realized that a lot of the agencies in the space were really good at kind of singular things. They were good at PPC, they were good at creative, they were like flat file specialists, but the cohesive gray matter of, inventory speaking with creative, right? Why would they do that, right? Creative speaking with advertising speaking with client success speaking with the client, understanding what the goals are, like those, all of the gray surrounding kind of running an actual business, I was not experiencing with the service providers that I was working with as a consultant. And I met my now business partner, Matt Brown, running up on 3 years now. And we were like, let's build an ultimate operator for an Amazon e-commerce brand, an Amazon focused e-commerce brand. And that's my origin story. And so
amazing.
Here we are, Deep Sea Commerce 3 years later. And yeah, we're a small boutique, small boutique, first full service agency, but with a creative specialty as well.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, that kind of hits on what we're doing and our specialty as well. That's what I've identified myself is you have a lot of agencies that specialize in certain things. And then also, like, the way that they price is like very like a la carte for the content. We price it, kind of content is included. But the most important part is the fact that all of the departments are communicating with each other, because it's one big ecosystem. So how could you not have all those parts communicating? And what people would end up doing, they'll say, hey, I don't need an agency, I have an in-house team. And it's like, well, what is an in-house team? Like 1 or 2 VAs that you're trying to get them to do everything or be everything. And maybe that works, but it's not as efficient in my experience, or you end up doing a lot of hand holding, or things are slipping through the cracks and you don't even know it. So it takes a lot of experience being successful and failing, like you said. Hearing that you went through that experience during the height of COVID, I mean, like, that was literally the wildest time to be in e-commerce. I mean, that it made people, it broke people, businesses, right? But if you were really there and paying attention, it was an opportunity of a lifetime for many. And it sounded like that was really like the silver lining of the whole COVID situation for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it was a, like, defining moment of, well, and this is also, I think oftentimes people question, like, why do you own an agency and not sell? Right? Like, that is the criticism of most kind of like group-minded think, right? Like, why would, if you're so good at Amazon, sell on Amazon? And I think that, like, for me, the passion is about the process, is about the system, about being very good at something and bringing like-minded people to the room who are excellent at what they do. And you mentioned a couple minutes ago, or a couple seconds ago, about, people, the in-house team concept. I think that there are brands out there, and we can name a few, who are doing an amazing job with an in-house team. Which, you definitely outgrow an agency at a certain level. But I think what most brands don't understand, and they really need to understand, is that the obsession needs to be about the product, not necessarily the marketplace, right? If you focus on the product, if you focus on the customer, and you obsess the hell out of that, everything there is to know about that, handing off, quote unquote, the actual marketing, the marketplace management, is not it's not a step back, but it's rather giving you focus to actually focus on what's good. The height of COVID, crisis management, high stress, that's my background pre all this stuff with just military things. And it's a lot easier to kind of upload flat files and dodge bullets, but you get the point.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you guys are servicing all kinds of clients right now? Are you focusing on launch brads to 7, 8 figure sellers, or is there like I get asked that a lot, like, oh, is there a certain category that you want to focus on? Or, so like, do you guys have your kind of like sub niche
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, totally. I mean, so for us, again, like there's legacy brands and legacy clients that we've had, and we've also gone through so many learning curves of like right client, wrong client, and there is no wrong client. It's not right for us. What we've learned is that there's a certain kind of revenue mark that marks the potential for profitability with a management like with an agency managing them like us. And what that means is that we're very boutique. So we're very select. We're not a catch-all. We don't have hundreds of clients. We really don't have that. And the objective is to be aligned with brands that want growth, but understand the business, if that makes sense. And so we go after brands that usually are either are launching and have the cash flow / their product is just visionary. It's epic.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to kind of be along for that ride, and we believe in it. That's the exception to the rule, but usually it's when a brand reaches, $3 to $5 million, our fees and the way that we align kind of on growth makes sense as a line item, as opposed to this like heavy hole that they need to pay, which either we don't make enough money covering the awesome team that we have with the tools, or they are just in the red for too long and just cash flow doesn't make sense for them.
That makes sense.
And that's for the brand management side of things. We also have a creative only kind of path, and that's for brands that want to solve for content, for creative, and that can be 3D renders. I saw that you guys do that as well. That's a really fundamental like baseline starting point. 3D renders all the way to professional videography, modeling, photography, etc.
Yeah. 3D modeling. I mean, I've used the same guide. It's like the only thing, right, that's like made it through all these years, because I started selling 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And I had a guy doing renders back then, and I still contact him for our agency to do renders. And it's like the only person that I've worked with since the beginning, pretty much of my entire career. Just like one guy, he lives in India, and his name is Rajesh. He is the best 3D renderer I've ever seen, like making things so HD that it's like, so that was like one of the early hacks that not many people knew about back in the day, where it's like you can just take some photos on your cell phone and send it to somebody, and they're going to make it look better than a photo shoot. I mean, they can't do lifestyle photos, of course. There's a place for everything, but for brands that are looking to get started and they don't have all this photo shoot assets and everything, that's been so helpful for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how do you guys see yourself growing? Like, there's a lot of decisions that us as the owners kind of have to make in terms of like where to focus, where to pivot. And I to be honest, I've dabbled a little bit in doing some social media management only out of necessity, where you have a client and they're just like, hey, you're running my ads, and we have content made already, so maybe let's put those assets together and run some Google ads or Facebook ads. And I'm doing it for my personal brand in-house as well, so we have that exposure, that experience, but it's not like our main focus, and it's a totally different beast. So once we started adding all of that on, it became this kind of, on my side at least, it became a little too messy and a little bit too unfocused for me, where I started to feel like now I'm kind of getting out of my Amazon lane, and it's not really working for me. So then it helped me to just kind of get back on and say, you know what, I'm just going to focus. But some brands and some agencies, they decide that they want to make that pivot and expand if they have the capability. So I'm curious, like, what do you guys see as like the next step?
Yeah, I mean, so like, to give you a direct but a little bit of a roundabout answer, but like the way that we see growth for our brands is a very similar like mindset for how we see growth for us. And what I mean by that is that like we break down the KPIs, like the building blocks of revenue and profit, right? Very simply, conversion rate and traffic equals units orders or units ordered, you multiply that by your average order value and you get revenue, right? And then you have the, contribution margin 1, 2, and 3, and you get profit. So if we think about that in the same mindset, how we market, how we get more brands is question number 2. Question number 1 is understanding what is our AOV, right? And the way that we've structured pricing is, we have a baseline kind of number that makes sense for us. And then we always add a stipulation for for some sort of sharing model. I'm not going to specify it because it's very complicated and very detailed, but essentially it's a direct alignment with growth of the brand that we're working with and our growth. And so instead of saying we need 10, 20, 30, 50 clients, we say we need an average order value of X.
Mm-hmm.
And we set very simple obtainable tranches for how do we get to this amount of clients and then that amount of clients with the average order value of that clientele being X. How we actually do that, I mean, that's the biggest question, right? I'm sure that you get a LinkedIn DM or 10 or 20 every single day. And I mean, literally it's like LinkedIn marketing and email marketing. It's like somehow there was some sort of like there was a social media conference and someone said, guys, like scrape LinkedIn, find their emails and just blast.
Yeah.
Or write a post on LinkedIn and say, comment like blah, 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 and I'll send you something.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, it's amazing to see, just like sheep mentality. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You get a gem here and there, like granted, but I feel like standing out, like true marketing is being epic, is being truly epic, truly solving something that no one else is solving in your own unique way. And that doesn't mean like agency versus agency. It means this agency does this in a very specific way versus that agency, right? We all have an ICP. And so how we market that, I mean, honestly, to date, it's been word of mouth primarily. And, we have a very strong referral system where brands that work with us want to bring other brands. We're very transparent with this is the cap of how many brands we want to work with. But up until now, we've been in kind of ultra growth mode and reinvesting everything into tools, technology, people, process, systems, all that kind of stuff. And we've not done the whole one LinkedIn post for every single day of the year with, a book at the end of it. Like we haven't gone into that. And I'm very cautious of kind of going down the rabbit hole of what everyone else is doing, because I feel like there's a certain numbness that obviously us as service providers get, but for sure on the other end of it, the brand owners are like, what is all this noise? So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that does. I mean, I love that answer. And the reason why is most agencies, they want to expand because people think that you need to expand your potential ICP or how many customers you can speak to, or, if I'm offering more services, then I'll get more revenue, right? So that's how you increase your AOV. But I see, because of the amount of competition in our space, and I use that word not to say like you and I, in theory, you can look at it as competitors, but I feel like you said, we have our strengths and weaknesses and we can differentiate, but still there's just a lot out there. And so I feel like narrowing down is really the path that I think most, first of all, brands too, consumer goods too, like you can't be another Walmart. You want to solve a very specific problem and be the best at it. Yeah. And that's how you really start to shine. And then when people need to have that problem solved, then they'll come to you. So really, by narrowing down, you are expanding in this kind of different way of looking at it, right?
Yeah, 100%. And just to add on to that, this is something that I've learned just in the past couple of months, really. Like our space, like you and I, is Amazon Marketplace agency, right? And there's a certain kind of personality to Amazon native brands, right? If you look outside the box to an e-commerce brand doing D2C or doing Walmart or doing Chewy or whatever it is, thinking about brands that do not have presence on Amazon or who have presence but are trying to kind of expand to that, those are usually the easiest clients because you don't have clashes of I launched a brand, got it to $5 million. I'm an Amazon guru expert. Now I'm going to hire you to do exactly what I say, which there's value to that, but there's also obviously problematic issues with that. Yeah. As opposed to, I am growing my $50 million D2C brand and I need an Amazon channel marketplace management system, right? Can you solve for that? And that usually You're solving a problem for a brand that did not know that this existed in the way that we know that it exists, which is a really, I think, like unique way to kind of approach your ICP.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that where, you know, somebody's looking to bring an agency on, exactly like you said, and we're having a conversation, and they know just as much as I know, like
Yeah.
to the point where they know all the service providers by their first name, like they've been to all the industry events. They just love the vibe of the community, it seems,
Mm-hmm.
because they have been in it long enough, or that's their second business or whatever. And
Yeah.
exactly, it is just sort of like, why are you, it seems like you can probably at this point build out your own team and get them to do exactly what you want versus trying to get us to adjust to your expectation of what, like, you know, everybody has their own way of doing things.
Yeah.
I agree. Bringing an agency on as a partner, really like a partner, like you're looking
Yeah.
at them not just to get the work done, but strategy.
Exactly.
That's how you set yourself up for something very long term. Otherwise, it becomes
Exactly.
like clash.
And there needs to be that mutual understanding of, you're not in this business as an agency owner because you could not make it on Amazon. You're in this business because of X, Y, and Z. And unless they can name what the X, Y, and Z is, then they won't see your value, right? How many times have you been doing content production, and the brand owner is like, why does it look like this? It should look like that. And there's room for, you know, feedback and criticism and strong brand guidelines. But the point is that, are they designers, or is your team the design team? And way too often there's this, like, you know, the CEO does not know everything. That's why they need people who are in seats. And an agency is a seat. It's a large seat, but it is a seat. And the focus and what makes agencies good or bad is being really good at what you do. And the really good at what you do needs to be understood. And I would approach, you know, the overall space, the Amazon space. People have these, you know, these posting schedules of, you know, and comment KPI and comment system and get pieces. That to me is like, you're going head on with each other as opposed to being smart about it. It's like football players just like bocking heads. It's like, don't do that. Play soccer and like do a good kick. You know what I mean? It's like, it does not feel efficient to me, and I'm not going to fight that fight.
Absolutely. I wanted to pivot and ask another question.
Yeah.
And this is something that I think about a lot. This is something that I think everybody's sort of trying to figure out. Semantic-based search and all of this talk about Cosmo and their new algorithm changes. I'm curious what your opinion is on that. How fast are they rolling it out, do you think? And how are you guys sort of gearing up for that change, if it's significant enough to do anything that requires gearing up?
Yeah. So I think that, broadly speaking, it's very significant. And if there is as much noise as there is about this topic, then it's a serious topic. Be that coming from, you know, Kevin King or Vanessa or Amazon themselves. Like, it's a topic that we need to take very seriously. It's kind of like sponsored brand videos, right? I remember when that rolled out and people were like, do we need to like now produce real videos? And like, yeah, you need to do that. And you need to do that before you had this. So yeah, I mean, like from when you think about the different types of search, right? I don't think that search is going away in the way of, you know, intent-based search, right? I'm searching for a search term, exact phrase, broad, etc., and that being a major kind of origin story of the buyer experience. Like, that absolutely is not going away, and it'd be foolish to think that that will be rolled out or that will be kind of eliminated. If the iPhone still exists and there is a keyboard, then we should be safe, right? Quote unquote. As it relates to kind of how Amazon's algorithm understands the listing, I think that's much more of a focal point. And, you know, with DeepSea, we do DeepSea Creative, right? So we do content, we do videos, we do the whole stack for an e-commerce brand, specifically for Amazon. And I think like the simplest way to kind of answer the question is, does AI understand your content? Does it understand your copy? And that's a really simplistic way of kind of yes or no. Obviously, the details and the complexities of does it understand it is ChatGPT or whatever the system that you're using similar to Amazon system? The answer is no, but it's as close as you're going to get to the beast. And so I would say understanding that search and SEO on Amazon is not going away, that being a core focus still until it isn't, in which case pivot. But at the same time, ensuring that your images, your videos, everything is optimized for artificial intelligence understanding what you do. And so with DeepSea, we've built custom tools that help kind of test that. So, we'll create a very robust content brief. We'll create amazing content, but that's to the eyes of the designers, right? How do we now get feedback, not from the buyer? That's important too, but we want feedback from a natural language model. And so we have a feedback loop that ensures that we are in line with how they would understand it. And oftentimes it's shocking to see, the disparities of the actual cognition. But that's the game that we're playing. And then like a foundational layer on all of this is, the basic kind of routine upkeep. And so we have things where there are AI suggestions that Amazon pushes on us, and we'll have the ops team kind of go through and make sure that we're not letting them do something without our permission, because Amazon is trying to kind of suck us into the AI world of everything is being pushed by them, and we know that they're not there yet. And so I would say, to approach this question fully, it's like SEO is not going away. AI needs to be communicating with your content and vice versa. And foundationally, you need to make sure that you are controlling, you are the last point of approval before things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something that I saw that was interesting, because there's some sponsored placements in Rufus. Have you seen that?
I have.
Does that make any sense to you? Like, you're asking a robot to give you a suggestion, but then somebody else on the other side is paying off the robot, so they're more likely to give you their suggestion.
Yeah, the short answer is I don't know, and I doubt that there's a good answer on the other side, except for it's another ad placement, and they need data. They need conversions to either happen or not to understand, is this model functional or not? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're just gonna see how it rolls out. I've witnessed many programs and initiatives that Amazon has started, and they've just redacted them or reverted them and closed them down.
Yeah.
I there's several of them that I've even used myself, and I was just like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then a year later, it's like, no more.
Yeah.
So they have to try. But I mean, I think this one is a big one. And from what I understand, the whole Cosmo thing is working. Even if it's a 0.1% increase of accuracy to get somebody something that they're looking for faster.
Yeah.
That results in hundreds of millions of dollars, that 0.1%.
Yes. Yeah. And I think also like aside from the search piece, right? Like from a brand owner perspective, Cosmo is, or not Cosmo, but Rufus as your aid is going to basically it's going to air out the dirty laundry. And so if your product is good and social proof is standing behind that, and your listing and your images clearly explain to the robot what it is, then you will stand out. If you're hiding things with merging an ASIN to an old ASIN that has 10,000 reviews, that's not going to work anymore, because systemically they're able to read that, as opposed to see there's 10,001 reviews. Like that doesn't hold anymore.
Yeah, there's no more trickery. It's just systemic, like you said, and I love that.
Yeah, it's like, have a good product, focus on your product, focus on your buyer, and let people who are really good, and if you're really good at it, keep on doing it. But if you're not really good at it, then hire an agency. Not for that. Yeah.
Awesome. So Ari, what's the best place for people to reach you?
I mean, honestly, email or LinkedIn. It's ari@deepseacommerce.com. That's 2 E's, so SEE commerce. And LinkedIn, I'm sure that you'll post my LinkedIn profile. But yeah, feel free to DM me, and I will promise to read the DMs and ignore the clickbait ones. But definitely, yeah, feel free to reach out.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining. I appreciate the chat today, man.
Thank you, Pasha. Great to meet you.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching.